welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
I'm Danny, I'm an addict. Don't believe any of that shit he just said. 24 years, 5 months, 4 days. My clean date. My clean date is July 7th, 1991. What an amazing life. What an amazing life. Only because I showed up and I try to do the next thing, the next right thing. I stay involved in this program. This program has given me a life. When I got here, I didn't know who I was, what I was about, what my likes, what my dislikes were. All I knew was, how to get high. I didn't know how to describe feelings. Today I have a wonderful life. I have people in my life that care about me. Man. Where addiction took me was despair, desperation, pain. One step away from incarceration. That's where my addiction took me. Skinny as a rail, 130 pounds, face sunken, thinking I looked good because I was slim. Today, man, I have a life. I care about what goes on. I have a family. My daughter is 17. She has never seen my wife or I high. 17 years old. My son was 4 years old when I got clean. And, part of the reason I got clean was what he said to me all those years ago. Daddy, I hate your friends. Daddy, why can't we just go play ball? I thought I was being a dad, man, because he was always with me. Always with me. Except I was running to the drugstore to do this and running to meet somebody else to do that. And it was constantly about the getting and using and finding ways and means. And it was about, the next one. And then it was about, not being coherent and not being present with him. It was about nodding, and it was, I wasn't a good dad. I wasn't there at all. So, part of the reason I've stayed here all those years are those words that he said to me, and that's, Daddy, I hate your friends. Daddy, why can't we just go play ball? That stuck. That stuck. The other thing that brought me to my knees was, not looking in the mirror. In the mirror, it's like I didn't see the agony, the pain, the despair. But looking at my brother, looking at me, and the fear in his eyes looking at me. That was another thing that brought me to my knees, but plus this far away from getting popped to doing some time. And it's like I did not want to deal with that. So what do I do, man? It's like NA is my way of life. What Terrence said, thank you, Terrence. Terrence, that was awesome, and I can't live up to that. I just know that I show up. It's an honor to do anything for NA, and it's my responsibility for me. If I want to keep this, I have to give it away. And it's like, I no matter what goes on between here, what I think is between here is never good. Never any good. It's always less than, inadequate. So fear of speaking, like I'm not going to do a good job. But it doesn't matter. The point is, I have to show up and I have to walk through it in order to get the benefit from it. But see, it doesn't stop there. Okay? Sponsorship has given me, incredible reason to stay. Incredible. I get involved in people's lives. And it's funny, last week I was sharing about the same thing, except from a point of view where I can't take it anymore. It's like, I've had several sponsees over the course of the last few months. I mean, people, one had 4 years this time and used, another has 10 years and is missing in action and making really poor decisions, and another 6 years and I don't know what the hell's going on, but to me it appears like using behavior. And you see, I cannot tolerate that in my life. And if I let people in, I cannot deal with their chaos and their BS. I have to keep my side of the street clean, and I have to keep, I can't deal with people's chaos. I'm there to help people, take them to a meeting, help them with the steps, help them with spiritual principles, service. Service is like that's what my life is about, really. It's service. And sponsorship is a large part of that. So if I'm not letting people get close to me, then I'm not doing a good job. However, when when the three rivers meet and like there's problem on and a bunch of different areas, then it affects me and it affects my state of mind. So I can get depressed. But the point is, sponsorship, I got to think about those people that I sponsor that are doing well, that give me hope and that do the right thing. And it's like, it's amazing. So, I started using, 12 years old, 12 years old, yeah. And, it progressed until, I missed all those years, I missed so many years, like, I never grew up and, was always terrified to grow up, so I used for so many years and then, I guess it was like 1986, a guy that I had been getting high with disappears. He's not around. It's like, I've had people OD, I've had people die, I've had people, incarcerated. But this guy, I knew he wasn't dead, and I knew he wasn't in jail, disappeared. Anyway, he says, so I finally get a hold of his wife, and she says he went away to get clean, and I'm like, what the heck is that about, man? It's like, that's pretty bizarre. So, he gets out of treatment. I finally talked to him, and he says, I went away to a rehab, I got clean, he says, and now I'm going to be going to meetings, and you're a person, place, and thing, and I can't hang out with you. I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, that was like foreign language. I had never heard anything about rehab, recovery. Like, it just didn't compute. He says, I'll take you to a meeting if you want to go, but I really can't be hanging out with you. So I went to that meeting with him, and I walked into that place. I'll never forget walking in there, because when I saw those people that I had been getting high with years before, and they disappeared, and I thought they were part of the people that OD'd and part of the people that were incarcerated. But, when I saw some of those people at that meeting, and what was terrifying about it? They were smiling. They had shiny, glowing faces. That was terrifying to me. They looked like they were happy, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So I went to that meeting. I didn't hear anything that happened there, and basically I couldn't hang. I left that meeting, and it was like I was a fish out of water in that place. I did not know how to deal with that. It was too overwhelming for me. So I didn't go back to meetings. And in fact, I went off the deep end, somewhat, because shortly after that, meeting, shortly after that, my wife came home. I was married at the time, and she says, I'm pregnant. And, you see, I never wanted that adult responsibility. This was 1986. I'm terrified, I can't handle that. So anyway, I used, I was no help. 1987, my son was born. July of 1987. He's 5-6 months old. I decide I gotta try to do this. So I went into my first, detox and came out of that detox, and it was the first time in my adult life that I had felt emotion. You see, my mom had passed away in 1977, and that was the last hindrance I had to really getting high the way I wanted to get high. I had stuffed all of these feelings, and the reason I got high, I used all those years, and it was to hide so I didn't have to feel. And I remembered, I always talk about this. There's this, I had a BB gun when I was a kid. Let me tell you, all the emotions that came up, all the thoughts, all the, things that happened. I blew my uncle had worked his whole life. I inherited some money from him, and I blew that within a year. Okay. That happened a couple of different times with different lump sums of money that I blew. The people I hurt along the way all came rushing back, and I sat after I got out of that detox, and I cried for days. I just could not stop. All these thoughts kept coming. I thought about this BB gun when I was a kid. I had this BB gun. I shot this pigeon, and the pigeon didn't die, and I had to shoot it again, and then I had to shoot it again and again, and by the fourth or fifth time, this thing isn't dying, and I'm shooting this pigeon, and I'm starting to feel oh man, I'm feeling bad. So this is what hit me, all these things. Finally, 40 shots later, the pigeon finally died, and it's that's what, all those kinds of things that I had done my whole life is hit me when I became an adult, and finally I was not anesthetized. So, so I started going to meetings. I got a home group. I got a sponsor. But you see, I was a busy guy. I had things going on in my life. I had a job. I had a mortgage. I had a son who was 5 months old. So I could only work the program, the best of my ability. I couldn't do what everybody else was doing, and that was socializing and going to meetings and hanging out and going to eat in the park. It's I had things to do, and so you get out of this what you put into it, and if you don't put your all into it, you're gonna use. So at 6 months clean, I had cut down my meetings. The only meeting I was going to was my one home group at the time, and I was a coffee guy, right? They say the coffee guy don't get high. Well, in this particular case, the coffee guy got high. You see, and I would, after I had relapsed at 6 months clean, because I heard you had to do things like this when you have 6 months. Speaking in front of people, that's like a terrible fear of mine. And, I was afraid to do that. So, all these things, me not working a program, that, me talking to myself, I talked myself into relapsing at 6 months clean. And, I relapsed. And then I was still going to my home group, and I would take some pills that I knew my eyes wouldn't be affected until maybe, after the meeting. And so I planned, I every Friday night, man, I'd show up at this place anyway, so I'm setting the meeting up, I'm making the coffee, and, I started taking those pills earlier and earlier till finally I was sitting at the meeting before the meeting started, and I'd be nodding, and, I got fired as the coffee guy. And that was the last thing keeping me in NA. It's like I don't know if that's the way it had to go down, but it went down that way, and I was asked to not, come to that meeting anymore. And it's like, so I'm like, that's enough of NA. I've had enough of you guys. You're all a bunch of losers anyway. So I didn't come back for 4 years, so at 4 years though, after 4 years, again, I was this far away from getting arrested. I was, this far away from losing everything I had. I finally did something about it. I got treatment, and then I jumped into meetings. I was at the end of my roads. I had no game. I couldn't work. And that's how I got by, is I always had something happening. I was always doing some sort of move to get money, plus I worked. See, I would never rob from you guys. Okay, I would rob from me and from my family, and when I couldn't even do that and I couldn't even work anymore, it was like I had lost all the game that I had, man. It's like I just wanted change. I didn't want to hurt anymore. And that's when I was ready, and I started going to meetings, and they said get a home group. I got 3 home groups. They said go to a meeting every day, do 90 and 90. I did 90 and 90 for 5 years. I went to 7 to 10 meetings a week for 5 years. They said get into service. I got into service. I got the same sponsor that I got 4 years before that, but this time I did what he suggested. It's like there was nothing going to keep me away from being clean, and I had to go after this shit like I went after the drugs. That's the bottom line. And the thing is, 24 years, 5 months, and 4 days later, I still do that. I do not want to go through that pain. I have to stay in service. I have to stay in NA. I do not want to use. And, I'm afflicted with low self-esteem, and, I don't know how to deal with that, other than, I work steps, I practice principles. I do this, but, you see, I have a social anxiety as well, okay, and those meetings that I made my home group, I was able to get to those meetings early, and I had a purpose, a reason. That reason is what kept me there. So I I went to that meeting early, and I would set up the chairs, and I had a purpose for being there. Well, when I have a purpose, I don't really have to worry about, having to talk, because I'm moving around doing things. So it kind of helps me get through that. So, fast forward to, I guess I had about a year and a half clean, and somebody said, can you help me with something for this convention, logo design, and I did a logo design, and it got picked, and then they said, well, why don't you come and present this logo to the committee? And that was like people backdooring me into service, and I ended up going to this meeting, and I don't know if anybody here is involved in service, but convention service especially seems to have like very strong, outgoing, loud type personalities, and I'm more of a behind your scenes kind of, smart, not talking loud, and at least I was. I was like that, and all of a sudden I'm asked to speak about something that I know a little bit about, and I got involved. And next thing I know, I'm the arts and graphics vice chair for this convention, and I'm like, geez, I went to a convention. I walked into this place the first time in 1987 when I was clean for that minute, and I was so overwhelmed and shocked by the people. I lasted 5 minutes there. It was like too overwhelming. I couldn't handle it. So anyway, they backdoored me into service. I got in there, and all of a sudden I'm finding, they're sharing their stuff, and all of a sudden I put my hand up and I share something, and it was listened to. It was like, it was the beginning of a change for me. It's like, I showed up. That's all I had to do was show up, and then I shared my thoughts, and people wanted to hear it. So I mean, that built my self-esteem, my self-confidence, and then you fast forward that, 6 years later, I chaired that convention. And then you fast forward it again, I chaired another convention. Who'd have thought that? I'm amazed that I had that opportunity and that, geez. What I've learned through NA service, through area service, through, being a GSR, through being area chair, P&A chair, I've learned how to communicate with people. I've learned how to write policy too. Through sitting there, going over things. Such a rewarding feeling to have an area, and I don't know, that one of my biggest, what I think is one of my largest accomplishments in NA is our area developed a GSR toolkit, and we sat there and we wrote this thing. For like 3-4 months, like every I don't know if it was a Wednesday night. It was a Wednesday night, and we sat there, and this thing was like, it's such a cool piece of literature. And Terrence ought to try to get some of these and bring them back here. It's a how-to guide on how to do a group, how to belong to an area. It's just really cool stuff. But part of my journey has been through trials and tribulations and not doing the right thing all the time. Okay, so part of my story is, you see, I thought I would be able to change my career and do some things that, I wanted to do something different and make a lot of money. Like nobody here probably ever wanted to make a lot of money real fast, right? Well, so anyway, I changed my job, and I got involved in mortgaging, and probably not a good idea, because where I went to work was already being investigated by the FBI, and like several months after I started, the FBI came in, and was not a pleasant situation, and initially, like, I'm pointing fingers and saying, look what they did. Look, I can't believe this is going on. But the bottom line here it was like, you know what? I should not have been in this place doing this thing. You see, when I signed my name on the bottom line of a federal form, that's a federal offense. And it's like, what did I expect? So I got indicted with 13 years clean for bank fraud. Okay? So I went through using how many years? I mean, how many years? I never, ever thought of hurting myself. Never. So 13 years clean. Indicted for bank fraud. I'm supposed to be a sponsor in NA. I'm supposed to be living a program of NA. And it's like, oh my God, man. It's like, I am such a liar. I'm such, I'm living a lie. I wanted to hurt. I didn't want to deal with this. I could not deal with this. So, it's like, I remember I was driving to a meeting and hyperventilating. It's like, it was terrible. Hyperventilating. I couldn't even go to a meeting because of how ashamed I was. So, bottom line is, I went to a meeting. So, I hooked up with some guys, people I sponsored and friends, and did road trips like, once a week, and shared about it, and people were jagging me off about selling with Baba. And, all the stupid shit. We just laughed at each other, and I got through it, and I shared about it. And I made it through that. I didn't have to do time, this far away from it again. And it's like, so this time, it's like, I'm ready, again, ready to do anything. A few other things that I've been through, clean, medical problems. Been through Hep C, treatments 3 different times back before they had the easy one. 3 years of my life I spent on interferon. And I can guarantee you that it changed me. And anybody that has to go through it now doesn't have to go through that. In right around the time I got indicted, a little bit after that, I guess, I was driving to pick someone up at a meeting, and I was experiencing jaw pain, thinking that it's another side effect from interferon, and I get to Morningside in Pittsburgh, and I call my wife, and she says, "What are you calling me for? Call 911," because I'm like feeling this real bad discomfort. And anyway, it turned out I was having a cardiac episode. I don't like to call it a heart attack, but I was having a cardiac episode, and they took me right to Presby and basically did a catheterization and determined that I was 100% clogged. My arteries were clogged, and they said to my wife, frankly, Mrs. Laffey, "We don't know why he's alive." See, I was playing outdoor soccer in an over 40 league 2 years before that. It's like I could have keeled over at any point. So they get me in, they put me in the room, and they say you can't leave the hospital until you go through this, quadruple bypass. And, I'm like, you want to talk about powerlessness. Then they say, okay, we can't do the surgery for another 7 days because it was something about, I don't know what the deal was. The surgeon wasn't available, so I had to sit in that room for 7 days thinking about this surgery that they were going to do. And it was really terrifying. So meetings, people, the friends that I have would come in and we would do meetings in there. And, the support from friends, from people that I recover with was just, it's amazing. The we of the program has been the cornerstone of my recovery. Yes, I work steps. Yes, I practice principles. But the we of the program, if I'm not willing to take a risk and be vulnerable and tell you what's going on with me, then, I'm never going to get the benefit from it. So basically, I have no secrets. People in my life know me, and my life is an open book. And, as long as I keep it an open book, I got a shot at staying here. If I start keeping secrets and start, living outside of the principles, then more than likely I'm going to have more problems. Life is awesome, man. I am living a dream, and the dream that I'm living is a normal life. It's like people that, everybody, when you ask them, say, how you doing? I'm living the dream. And you see that sarcasm in there, but I really am living the dream. My life is so normal. My furnace filter has changed. The oil has just been changed in both of the cars. My life is normal. It's like, my kid is normal. Everything about my life is normal, and I'm so grateful for that. And it didn't just happen. I still have chaos in my life, but usually it's someone else's, and that's cool. I just got to watch how close it gets to me and have that boundary, that healthy boundary. And, this has really been cool. I remember speaking here a long, long time ago, and I was so overwhelmed with this place. This was like, I guess because I'm also recovering from fire and brimstone from when I was a kid, okay? And I guess this particular situation I was a little worried, overwhelmed with it, but this is really a cool place, and you guys have an awesome thing. And Jesse, thank you before the meeting, and Terrence for asking me to come down. Jason, congratulations, 17 years, man. Whew.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. Napot is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to napot.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.